Well, it's that time of year again. YouTube has updated their terms of service. In keeping with tradition, these updates have brought us one step closer to the site being completely unusable for anyone besides boomers or toddlers, the primary target of their algorithm. While last year we saw the termination of Mumkey Jones with zero explanation and the complete crippling of channels YouTube deemed to be targeted towards a young audience, this year we were rewarded with new updates to the community guidelines with stricter policies against what YouTube classifies as harassment and bullying. As these new policies were rolled out, they were immediately enforced aggressively and retroactively. They have seen the deletion of the biggest video critical of H3H3 Productions, an hour-and-a-half expose by Gokinaru released earlier this year sporting 1.3 million views, as well as the deletion of one of Psychic Pebble's animated shorts critical of the Fine Bros from 2013, sporting 3.5 million views, and the deletion of one of the most important and impactful videos in YouTube's history, iDubbbz's Leafy is Here Content Cop, which had around 35 million views. Needless to say, this does not bode well for any independent content creators with even the slightest edge to their humor, or anyone who enjoys those kinds of videos. The way I view it, this move to delete such massively popular, independently produced videos is a bit of bravado, a way to ensure that the collective mass of peasants that make up its user base know that YouTube is in charge.
Will you shut up? Now we see the violence inherent in the system. Shut up! Oh, come and see the violence inherent in the system! Help! Help! I'm being repressed!
Fans and creators alike have railed at them with increasing ferocity in recent years over their blatant attempt to sanitize the platform in order to make it as advertiser-friendly as possible. The criticism they regularly receive in this regard usually falls into three broad categories: their demonetization system, video suppression, and their increasingly strict community guideline rules and their enforcement. Their attempts to address any of this criticism has gotten to the point of comedy. When YouTube says they are listening and taking steps to correct an issue, the best you can hope for is that they do nothing and things don't get any worse. It never fails. When YouTube tries to implement a solution, the issue is always exacerbated. With every new corporate decision YouTube makes seeming to be strictly to the benefit of the company at the expense of its users, most of us feel as if YouTube is trying to incrementally push us out. The way most of us that use YouTube view it, whether from the perspective of a creator or a viewer, we built this platform. The site didn't grow into the force of nature that it is today because it was intended to host clips of late-night shows, excerpts from cable TV series, and mainstream news segments. YouTube is YouTube because it started off as a place to host the polar opposite of legacy media. It stripped away nearly every barrier to entry that was in place to prevent ordinary people living in ordinary places from entertaining the masses in their own unique way, whether through Let's Plays, original animations, vlogging, podcasts, amateur philosophy, trolling, religious debates, independent news, commentary, movie reviews. The opportunities are, or at least were, virtually limitless. While the opportunity to express themselves in a way never before experienced in human history brought the original creators to YouTube, it was the chance to view this enchanting and endearing freak show that brought the viewers, and we didn't just come for a single visit. For years, traditional media had been telling us the same story a dozen different ways, over and over and over again. It wasn't necessarily bad, it was actually quite comfortable, but it wasn't exciting. Conversely, the content on YouTube wasn't necessarily good. In fact, it could be quite uncomfortable.
What I do is when I'm not in front of my video camera, I actually use my tit wings, as you guys have dubbed them, to fly to Africa and steal cornmeal right out of the hands of African babies.
But it was new and exciting. Simply navigate to the website, type in something you find interesting, and you'd be treated to a lifetime's worth of content related to it, ranging from the hot takes of a 40-year-old schizophrenic living in his mother's basement to doctorate-level dissertations with cinematic production value and everything in between, all presented with the option of interaction with the creator or others viewing the same material in the comments section. The first time I visited the site, I didn't consume any other media for a month. I would just spend hours after school with my cousin finding strange, deranged people detailing every aspect of their lives into a webcam for the world to see. It was like my own personal view into insanity. It still is, really. But that's just what hooked me. Everyone's got a different story, but the one constant is that the moment they found YouTube, They were hooked, and so basically overnight, YouTube became a serious competitor to giant traditional media corporations, perhaps not in revenue, but certainly in reach. All because the platform they created was the perfect place to foster a massive online community around what was essentially a living library linked to everybody in the world. That's why watching this slow but aggressive attrition of real people in favor of a clean and shiny corporate image is so infuriating. Hey guys, thanks for building everything about our entire brand. It's because of your hard work that YouTube is now a global household name with over 2 billion active users. We really can't even begin to express how much we appreciate everything you've done, but we think we can create a cheap imitation of you that will be much better for us financially. See yourself out the door and don't come back. Your community is welcome to stay behind after you go, but if they leave too, we don't care. We've got the attention of 99% of the world's toddlers, and they generate much more revenue than any of you do, and they never complain. Make no mistake, they may do it through vague, incremental changes with a smile on their face, but that's what's happening. And it's clearer than ever after the deletion of iDubbbz's Leafy is Here content cop. There is a tangible history to the massive community that makes up YouTube, more than enough to fill a college-level textbook, and the powers that be are very familiar with it, which is why they chose that particular video. As with the history of any community, there are eras and events that mark their beginnings and ends. These eras did not come and go as everyone sat around a virtual campfire singing Kumbaya as we respectfully debated who made the best content and why. It was pure anarchy, filled with drama, flame wars, trolling, allies made, backstabbed, titans falling from grace while they were simultaneously replaced and either instantaneously forgotten or universally despised. Being an active part of YouTube is like being involved in a real-life interactive soap opera. It's amazing. The era that comes to mind at this point, obviously, is the rise of the commentary genre to mainstream popularity. The beginning of this era is marked by a young boy with no particular talent who wasn't particularly clever stumbling upon the secret algorithmic formula, overlaying gameplay with unrelated commentary, boosting his reach to an enormous untapped audience, thus exposing the commentary genre to a whole new demographic and propelling it to new heights. That young lad was Leafy is Here, and for the role he played, he will never have to work another day in his life. The era ends with iDubbbz releasing his Leafy is Here content cop, which, in addition to marking the beginning of the end of Leafy's career, due to his own behavior more than anything, also highlighted the low-effort, stagnant, unoriginal, repetitive garbage that many commentary channels had become, pumping out as many videos as possible for the fastest return on the smallest possible investment. That isn't to say that by virtue of ending an era, this video was inherently a negative thing. Quite the opposite, in fact. It forced commentary channels to reflect on their work and would usher in a new era for the commentary genre, seeing creators reach unprecedented levels of quality. I understand this all seems very pedantic, and it is, but my intention is to really help illustrate the impact of what YouTube is doing when they retroactively delete videos, like the Leafy is Here content cop. After years of being told they need to start implementing policies that cater to the real user base, or at least roll back the policies that are detrimental to them, YouTube looked everyone right in the eye, and with the click of a button, erased a monumental moment in the history of the platform. They are sending a clear message. The direction the platform is going is the direction YouTube, the corporation, wants it to go, not the direction the YouTube community wants it to go. The history of how they got here isn't important. The only thing that's important is a good image for advertisers and appealing to the lowest common denominator in order to replace the original user base they are steadily driving away. Now, there are some people who are saying that iDubbbz's Leafy is Here content cop was taken down by mistake, which no doubt leaves you wondering, what manner of big-brained individuals would think that the most viewed commentary video in the history of YouTube was deleted by mistake? Well, it's not actually a group of people, it's just mundane Matt, who unsurprisingly seems to be giddy at the prospect of the new terms of service potentially bringing a halt to the unending torrent of videos made at his expense. On some level, everyone intuitively understands that deleting this video was no mistake on YouTube's end. Matt is simply trying to rationalize the euphoria he's feeling because behind his, stone-like, stoic exterior, he knows that he is a sad, selfish little man who deserves 100% of the negative attention he receives. But Because it makes for a good segue and a decent joke, let me play Boulder's advocate for a moment. Let's assume that Matt really is so unintelligent that he doesn't understand that this was a calculated move by a company with a history of unapologetic and unexplained sporadic video termination. Well, all that it takes is a quick glance at the terms of service to know that it was drafted specifically with his video in mind. The very first example given of content that is not allowed on the platform seems to have been written by someone immediately after sitting through Ian's video, quote, repeatedly showing pictures of someone and then making statements like, "Look at this creature's teeth, they're so disgusting," with similar commentary targeting intrinsic attributes throughout the video.
You're hiding your putrid, malformed chin behind your hand. Unfortunately, a profile shot. If you look at anyone with a weak chin, their enemy is the profile shot. It ruins them. For a short time, I was very concerned about Leafy. I wasn't sure if he had no chin at all, or if he just had a very weak chin.
Someone disappeared, huh?
No, it's just his chin disappeared.
Oh,
When I found out that Leafy had a weak chin, I really wanted to help, because he shouldn't have to bully people looking the way he does. He's gonna be in front of a tree with a leaf covering his chin. And there'll be a big gust of wind coming, and the leaf blows away, exposing his putrid chin.
Bear in mind, the subject of this harsh, comedic criticism, Leafy, didn't want the video taken down, responding via Tommy C. Might be bad. Good luck to him. I mean, I know we had beef, but it's all a part of that genre at the time. Without a shadow of a doubt, YouTube terminated this video to send a message. Things are changing, and you can either change with them or see yourself out the door. There's no other point in deleting it. Leafy hasn't made a video in years, and when he was still active, the higher-ups at YouTube hated him. In any case, they're about 3 years and 35 million views too late to protect his mental health from mean comments on the internet. They claim that they created these terms of service after consulting YouTube creators, among others, and this should raise red flags for everyone. On one hand, you can't trust YouTube to be truthful. They have a vested interest in the YouTube community, starting a witch hunt in an effort to determine which creators advise them to impose these new draconian restrictions.
If she weighs the same as a duck, she's made of wood. And therefore, a witch! A witch!
It's much easier to target and blame real people who will react and respond than it is to blame an uncaring, enigmatic corporation and their army of bots. On the other hand, you can't trust YouTubers. We always laugh and invoke the timeless advice of Tyler the Creator when someone complains about being raked across the coals by the entirety of the internet, but that advice offers little comfort to your average e-celeb. It's hard to comprehend the size of the ego a person must have when they're suffering from delusions of grandeur that have, in their mind, become a reality thanks to their 7-figure sub count. It's hard to say what YouTubers who have been the subject of any sort of major criticism might say to YouTube behind closed doors. Call me optimistic, but I believe that even if the temptation is there, most YouTubers who have been on the platform for any significant amount of time know that increasing the strictness of community guidelines will hurt them as well. In particular, many people are blaming H3H3 for the termination of Gokinaru's video criticizing them. While I agree that it does seem very suspicious that they met with Susan this year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did complain about it, I don't believe that that's the reason the video was terminated. My theory is that they deleted Gokinaru's video because it was obviously inspired by Content Cop. I mean, the series that the video is part of is called Video Vigilante, and it's not just some cheap knockoff. His video was much more in-depth than any of Ian's work, and he obviously has the potential to reach the same heights through analyzing and criticizing popular creators, genres, and even YouTube the corporation, as seen in his latest entry into the series. I honestly believe he was targeted because his video was too good, and as with iDubbbz, it's obvious that it was directly referenced when drafting the new TOS. Quote, content making implicit or explicit threats of physical harm or destruction of property against identifiable individuals. Note, implicit threats include threats that don't express a specific time, place, or means, but may feature weapon brandishing, simulated violence, etc. Content posted by vigilantes restraining or assaulting an identifiable individual. Content that depicts creators simulating acts of serious violence against others. Executions, torture, maiming, beatings, etc. Obviously, all of these things were done for comedic effect in Gokinaru's video, and no one in their right mind would view them as a serious threat. It seems to me that YouTube cherry-picked the examples of the best and most effective commentary out there to make an example out of. YouTube has made explicit statements over the past year expressing their desire to end critical videos altogether, with a specific focus on what they call creator-on-creator harassment, which culminated in these new terms of service. This follows a trend of increasing censorship in recent years, but can be traced back to Steven Crowder's feud with Carlos Maza, which ignited the Vox Adpocalypse, the third or fourth iteration of the original Adpocalypse. In the update they released as part of the rollout, they say they will gradually ramp up the enforcement of these policies in the coming months. So think of the videos that have been deleted so far as a warning shot. And if your content or the content you enjoy is, like mine, critical of others, expect to see a lot of empty channels and terminations. To add insult to injury, YouTube justifies these new policies by claiming that they were put in place in order to protect their community. Now, when I say community, I'm referring to the real creators and viewers that make up this platform. When YouTube references their community, they're referring to the corporate idealization of the word, what a community would look like on paper, everyone living in homogeneous harmony. So when they say they're implementing these changes to help protect and foster their community, what they really mean is that they're trying to protect and foster their corporate image in order to make the site more profitable. It seems somewhat fitting that iDubbbz's video getting deleted would mark the end of the era it started, though this time it will mark the end for an era that encompasses more than just the commentary genre. Leading up to this point, YouTubers have already started to censor themselves due to a combination of fear over the possibility of channel termination if a joke goes too far, and the desire to monetize their videos and profit from their work. Expect to see that self-censorship ramp up to all-time highs across the board in 2020. YouTube has graciously decided not to issue any strikes to channels that have had their videos retroactively deleted, so in all likelihood, we won't see channels terminated outright, at least not for the first few months. But after channels have had videos retroactively deleted, it wouldn't surprise me if YouTube started keeping a very close eye on all their newest uploads. As everyone begins to temper their videos to fit into the narrow window of what is and isn't allowed on the platform, while also trying to fit it into the even narrower window of what can and can't be monetized, things are going to get a lot more boring and a lot less funny. Personally, I don't see myself being able to cut out many more jokes and remain entertaining. It seems the only way to maintain a healthy channel will be to morph yourself into some sanitized, cheap imitation of what you used to be, or be replaced by someone who will. As if this update wasn't bad enough on its face, it also seems to contain a bit of foreshadowing of what will inevitably be one of the worst things to happen to YouTube, placing the responsibility of managing comments onto the owner of the channel. To be clear, they're not placing this responsibility on creators just yet, and to my knowledge, they've never publicly stated that that was their intention. But in the Google blog released alongside the new TOS, there's a section where they discuss the issue of, quote, toxic comments at great length, and the emphasis they put on this supposed issue does not bode well for anyone using the platform. We know that the comments section is an important place for fans to engage with creators and each other. At the same time, we heard feedback that comments are often where creators and viewers encounter harassment. This behavior not only impacts the person targeted by the harassment, but can also have a chilling effect on the entire conversation. This sort of fear-mongering language is absolutely laughable to me. A chilling effect on the entire conversation? They're treating YouTube comment sections as if they were Oxford debates instead of a virtual mud wrestling contest. You know what has a chilling effect on the entire conversation? Mass deleting videos and making everyone afraid their channels and the channels that they enjoy are next on the proverbial chopping block. To combat this, we remove comments that clearly violate our policies, over 16 million in the third quarter of this year, specifically due to harassment. 16 million comments removed due to harassment, and you can guarantee that less than 1/10 of 1% were ever reviewed by human eyes. The AI they use to flag and remove comments is absolutely awful. I would say less than 50% of the comments I leave make it through without being flagged or deleted, and 99% of what I say is sarcasm or jokes. The policy updates we've outlined above will also apply to comments, so we expect this number to increase in future quarters. Fantastic, YouTube. Go big or go home. The system is obviously ineffective, and it's the rest of this section that makes me think we will be seeing the responsibility being placed on creators to curate their own comment sections in the very near future. Beyond comments that we remove, we also empower creators to further shape the conversation on their channels, and have a variety of tools that help. When we're not sure a comment violates our policies, but it seems potentially inappropriate, we give creators the option to review it before it's posted on their channel. Results among early adopters were promising. Channels that enabled this feature saw a 75% reduction in user flags on comments. Yeah, and I'm sure everyone could get that number down to 0 if you just turned off comments altogether. Encouraging creators to try and shape the conversation on their channel by policing the comment section is quite honestly some of the worst advice you could give. Look at anyone who spends a significant amount of time trying to sanitize their comment section. Pretty much everyone I've covered on this channel has engaged in this behavior, and all it's ever done is make the criticism they receive 10 times worse. It encourages people to go elsewhere to vent their frustrations, and will more than likely lead to critical videos being made at their expense. Unless it's in retaliation to some sort of disgusting, illegal activity, virtually no one wants comments automatically removed. Earlier this year, we began to turn this setting on by default for most creators. We've continued to fine-tune our systems to make sure we catch truly toxic comments, not just anything that's negative or critical, and feedback from creators has been positive. Which creators think the way you've been handling comments is a positive thing? I know it's not Markiplier, considering you terminated hundreds of his channel members because they used his custom emojis to comment during live streams. Explain why the entire site is up in arms about these decisions, why #YouTubeIsOverParty was trending when you released them, if the feedback you received is so positive. It doesn't add up. Last week, we began turning this feature on by default for YouTube's largest channels with the site's most active comment sections, and will roll out to most channels by the end of the year. To be clear, creators can opt out, and if they choose to leave this feature enabled, they still have ultimate control of which held comments can appear on their videos. Alternatively, creators can also ignore held comments altogether if they prefer. Yeah, you're free to opt out of allowing them to curate your comment section. You know all those tools they've spent millions of dollars developing and rolling out in order to help everybody curate their comment section? You don't have to use those. I mean, they turn the filter on by default, but you can turn it off. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. It's not a big deal. For those of you who don't know, we don't have ultimate control over which comments appear on our channels. Oftentimes, comments disappear without a trace and there's nothing that we can do about it. We only have control over what's flagged. Personally, I switch the filter off and approve pretty much everything that gets flagged without even looking at them on principle, and I have no plans to change the way I handle it. Obviously, nothing here explicitly states that YouTube plans to start requiring creators to moderate their comments, but the writing on the wall seems clear to me. YouTube always offloads responsibility onto the end user wherever possible. So in the next year, you can at least expect that option to turn the filter off to disappear. And in the years following that, for YouTube to adopt a policy similar to that of Twitch. The best we can hope for is that the penalty will be to disable comments for channels that do not, cannot, or will not comply. More than likely, they will begin terminating the users who let their comment sections remain open and unmoderated. It's at this point in the video where you would probably expect me to go on a long diatribe about how YouTube is ruining their own site, how they need to fire the CEO before it's too late and the site tanks, but I'm not going to do that, because I don't believe it. Despite all of these absolutely awful changes, one thing is for sure. YouTube is going to be just fine. The platform will continue to grow, their reach and influence will increase, and the policies will become even worse for independent creators. But YouTube as a company will be fine. They've long ago reached the point where they're too big to fail, and quite honestly, the vast majority of new users aren't invested into any communities. They're content to click on whatever they see on their homepage and then let the YouTube algorithm autoplay them whatever YouTube suggests as drool leaks slowly out of their mouths. Because that's a demographic much preferable to the outspoken original community. But what about these refugees who have had any opportunity to succeed on the site crushed out of existence or lost their favorite creators, the people who made the site what it is? Well, there really is no recourse once YouTube becomes unusable. I love the idea of sites like BitChute, but I don't have much faith in them. They seem to stick around for a few years and then just go under. I hope we get a viable alternative, but I just don't see Google allowing that to happen. It was definitely a fun ride while it lasted, and I won't be getting off until they inevitably force me out, but the end of the platform as we once knew it is already upon us. If you need any more proof that the direction of this site and social media in general is headed straight down the drain, look no further than PewDiePie.
I am taking break from YouTube. Next year. I wanted to say it in advance because I made up my mind. I'm tired. I'm feeling very tired. I don't know if you can tell. Just so you know, early next year I'll be away for a little while. I'll explain that later, but I wanted to give heads up.
What does it say about a platform when by far the largest creator decides to go on hiatus? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we never see the return of regular content from Felix after he sees what life without YouTube is like. He certainly doesn't need to come back, but only time will tell. Now, on a lighter note, besides Mundane Matt, there is one other creator who seems to be rather giddy at the prospect of critical videos being deleted, and that is the lovely Foodie Beauty. Now, I could take this opportunity to pick apart Chantal's horrible behavior once again, but I'm gonna get off my holier-than-thou high horse and show a little bit of human compassion. It's obvious to me that she's in a really bad place right now. Her channel isn't making nearly enough to support her lifestyle, and she's been trying rather unsuccessfully to get some sponsorship deals to make it profitable. So far, she hasn't had any luck. Besides the fact that the products she's promoting aren't paying for advertising, only sending her free products, the poor girl can't even properly format a URL to create a link. Jokes aside, it's actually rather dismaying for me to see this. If someone with nearly double my subscriber count can't get sponsorships, then what are the chances that I'll be able to land one? How long do I have to play the algorithm before I have a big enough reach to free myself from reliance on AdSense to make my videos profitable without e-begging for Patreon bucks? Anyways, this video is sponsored in part by NordVPN.com/Toad. If there's one thing I value in my life, it's privacy. In the real world, it's always been relatively easy for me to maintain my privacy. I bought a house in the middle of nowhere, I don't tell anyone where I live, and when anyone comes knocking at my door, I open it and just stare at them, unblinking in the eyes, without saying a word until they leave my property. On the internet, it's not so easy. Every single social media site, including this one, is trying to collect information about you. They then take that information and sell it to any company willing to pay the right price. In the real world, when someone tries to spy on you in the privacy of your own home, it is your right, obligation, and privilege to run them off of your property while waving the Gadsden flag, shouting incoherently about Ayn Rand and the non-aggression principle. Unfortunately, this has little effect in the digital world. Trust me, I've tried. The internet's equivalent to the Gadsden flag is a quality VPN, and Nord is one of the best. They offer military-grade data encryption to keep your information secure, and rumor has it that every time you connect to their virtual private network, Susan Wojcicki sheds a single, delicate tear, and Mark Zuckerberg's internal wiring shorts out, which I'm told is an incredibly unpleasant experience for androids. In addition to helping shield your information from big corporations, NordVPN will keep your data safe when browsing the internet using public Wi-Fi. This is especially useful for me because when I said I live in the middle of nowhere, I wasn't kidding, and as a result, my internet speed is nearly unusable, which requires that I use public Wi-Fi for 90% of my uploads. The last thing I need is the admin at my public library finding out that I spend a good majority of my time creating feature-length videos about strange people on the internet. They also offer dedicated peer-to-peer servers so you can safely and privately torrent to your heart's content. But why stop there? Not only can you dunk on CEOs and IT nerds, you can also make the Quarry King himself cry out in agony with their built-in ad blocker. Other VPNs routinely trigger the notorious Netflix proxy error, but not NordVPN. Take that, Winnie the Despot. Click on the link in the description today to visit nordvpn.com/toad or use promo code _TOAD at checkout, and you'll get all of this and more for up to 81% off when you choose the 3-year plan, which also includes Nord's password manager on the house. Obviously, this will help to support the channel, and if you don't like it, don't worry, it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. But by far the biggest sponsor for this video is, as always, my patrons. Whether through YouTube memberships, Patreon, New Project 2, or PayPal, the support you guys have been giving me recently has been absolutely amazing. I really can't thank you enough.